All right, so let's go to calls. Let's see, we have, looks like we have Mark in Canada, so. Hi, Mark.
Hi, how's it going? Jen?
Yes.
How are you today?
Good.
Yeah, as you know, my name is Mark. I'm an admitted Christian creationist, believe in a higher being that created everything. So I'm calling today because I have a question for atheists about their fundamental beliefs. Now, from what I've read and understand, you guys believe that anything that cannot be proved through observation of the traditional five senses, sight, hearing, touch, sound, smell, and taste, if you can't observe it through the five senses, then it's not real and it doesn't exist, correct?
Where did you get that?
This is what I've read about atheist philosophy and what I've heard of a number of atheists.
That's not an atheist philosophy.
Yeah, I think first of all you should understand that atheist just means you don't believe in God, period. It doesn't say...
No, I know, but how do you determine if something is scientifically real or if it's just imagined? If you, like, how do you determine if it exists or not? Like, that's what I'm saying. I read that how science determines if something exists or not is by the five traditional senses of sight, touch, smell, sound, and...
We have many more ways besides human senses to determine if things are real or not.
Okay, but do you believe that humans only have five senses to determine, like, perceive things?
Why is that even relevant? Where are you going with this? What question do you really want to ask?
Well, that is the logical fallacy that I find with atheism, because you believe in evolution, yet you don't believe that we could develop more than five senses of perception to perceive our reality.
Well, I think that if you actually understand what science does, we've actually extended our ability to perceive things by using instruments that
intellectually, I understand that.
Okay,
but
you understand that we can detect things that humans can't perceive with five senses, right?
Yeah, using technological devices.
Right.
So you're asking a question about the scientific method, not about atheism. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, I'm asking about the scientific method, but I'm asking about atheism because atheism believes and follows what they follow because they follow whatever science has proven to be fact, and anything outside of that...
No, that's not what atheism... Atheism doesn't believe anything. Atheism is a response to a specific claim.
Well, so that's what I mean. You don't step out of what is known. You make all of your decisions about your life based on what is known fact.
No.
No?
No, we're not claiming knowledge about whether or not a God exists. What we're saying is that we don't believe that a God exists because no one's been able to demonstrate to our satisfaction that such a thing exists.
If you could provide evidence that doesn't rely on five senses, I'm not sure what that would look like, but basically we don't believe something for which there is no evidence. So if you came up with some evidence that would satisfy that question that was not related to the five senses, then we'd be glad to hear it.
Okay, well, that's good because do you agree that one of the 12 constants in our universe is electrical magnetic fields?
Again, I have no idea where this is going, but okay, for the sake of argument, let's agree to that. Where are you going with that?
Yeah, we do live, we basically live on a supergiant magnet floating through space orbiting the sun, right?
Okay.
And
we're not cosmologists either, so...
Yeah, your point would be?
And we're all basically walking electrical magnetic field, right?
Okay, where are you going with this? Are you a cosmologist?
Where am I going with this? I'm going with this that maybe the reason that you have not ever been able to perceive the existence of God is because it requires a sixth sense development.
Or maybe your God doesn't exist?
Then I know citing names is not enough to be proof, but hey, there's some really amazing people from history who did believe in God. Isaac Newton, Thomas Edison, Neil
Yeah,
Armstrong.
it's possible to be really intelligent and still believe in a God.
And Abraham Lincoln, do you know he abolished slavery in USA based on
Again,
a God
it's
argument?
possible to be really intelligent and still be wrong about that issue.
It doesn't mean their
I
belief
know,
in God
but
was.
he used the God argument to abolish slavery.
Well, they used the God argument to justify slavery for
Yeah.
years too, so I don't think that's all that relevant. I think scientists can believe in God and not believe in God for scientific reasons. Would you agree with that?
Sure.
So,
Okay.
so you claim to have a sixth sense for perceiving God. So what is that like? How is it that you perceive God, and what is this? How does this sense manifest?
What is the sixth sense? Well, I already gave you a hint. We live on a supergiant electrical magnet, and we are all electrical magnetic fields. All life forms are emitting electrical magnetic fields. So I don't know, is it not logical to assume that sixth sense would be the ability to detect electrical magnetic fields?
And so you think that we're atheists because we don't have the ability to detect electromagnetic fields?
I'm saying that is the very essence and sense of how you detect and sense the presence of God. It is a presence. Electromagnetic field is a presence. It's not something you can see, feel, hear, touch, or smell or taste, but it is a presence.
Okay, but we have detectors that can actually detect electromagnetic fields.
Yes, actually, yeah, you do, and I'm glad you mentioned that. You ever seen the show Paranormal Witness, where they take electrical detection devices into so-called places where there's been spiritual activity and things are going off the gauge, and they're like, we can't say exactly what happened here. All we know is there's stuff that's tripping our equipment.
And, when you come up with something that you can't say exactly what's happening there, the correct answer is, I don't know what's going on.
But there's a presence that's tripping their equipment.
Well, no, it's not to make the assertion that there's some presence there that's making their equipment go crazy.
What's making their equipment go crazy then?
Well, we don't know. But claiming that it must be a God is not justified. And you do know that those shows are nonsense, right? That stuff is all scripted and...
Yeah, some of them are, but, so I've seen some real factual ones where they do act real.
How do you tell the ones that are scripted from the factual ones?
And expose the hoax of it, not make a hoax out of it.
Okay, so how do you tell which ones are scripted and which ones are factual? I'm just curious about what your method is.
I don't, but I'm just saying that I see that on both sides, the ones that try to make a hoax and the ones that try to discredit and debunk the hoax even come back and say, hey, we can't explain this, but there's stuff tripping our equipment.
And what stuff is that?
They don't know. They can't explain.
Exactly, they don't know. So what's the basis for claiming that it's something supernatural?
Well, what's the basis for not?
Because you don't know.
Something. But it's got to be something.
If you make a positive claim, you need evidence to back that up.
I'm not making a positive factual claim. I'm just saying, hey,
no,
as a
you actually are.
person,
You're saying that there's something supernatural that's causing this electromagnetic thing.
No. I'm saying as a free will thinking person, I am choosing to believe in a free thinking society, freeing my mind to believe what I want to believe about that event and phenomenon.
Okay,
and I choose to attach a supernatural.
You know that belief is not a choice, right? You actually don't choose your beliefs.
How do you figure that?
You're either convinced or you're not. So something has convinced you that this is a supernatural event. So what is that?
Whatever I observed.
Okay, so seeing a TV show that you admitted there are lots of hoaxes going on these TV shows.
No, that was just an example because you were saying about we have equipment to detect electrical magnetic fields and other things like that, and I was just using that as an example to show you that there have been people using these electrical magnetic detection devices and detected presences of electromagnetic fields from sources they couldn't identify or verify. How
do you get from that to God, though? Because I haven't seen a show called God Hunters where they, the presence of God was tripping their equipment. So when you have this sense that tells you that there's a God, what does that look like to you, or what measurements does that do you?
Okay, hold on. Hold on a second. Let me just jump here for a second. I'll come back to that. But I want to ask you a question. You believe in the court of law and how the court of law operates in your country and in the world, right? In first world free thinking countries, right?
I'm not sure what you mean by believe in.
Yeah, we have a court system, and it works most of the time.
Yeah, it works pretty well, but it has flaws.
You think that is man, okay. So what I'm saying by that, in the court of law, in all free world, first world countries, 3 witnesses are considered to be enough substantiating. 3 witnesses that witness the same thing are considered enough substantiating evidence to be considered fact.
No.
That's news to me. I've never heard that before.
No,
in the US
that's not a
system.
criteria for anything in a court.
There can be 1 witness if there's enough evidence, or there
Right.
can be
If
900.
Yeah, if 3 witnesses testify to seeing the same thing, but there's other evidence that refutes that testimony, then those 3 witnesses, that testimony has no value.
Okay, fine. But the point where I was trying to go with that is I'm assuming you've all heard of the AA 12-step programs in the USA, North America, and across the world.
Boy, this is like a gish gallop of topics here, but yes, we've heard of that.
Okay, so are you aware that there are millions and millions of people worldwide who claim that going through the 12-step program and coming to know a higher power, creative being helped change their lives and are no longer addicted to drugs and alcohol?
I agree that there are people that claim that, yes.
Yeah, and are you also aware, because I'm one of those people, that's how I came to Christ. I grew up in an atheist family, and I was a non-believer, and I didn't see any substantiating proof to convince me that there's a real God. But I was at my bottom, and I tried everything in my life. I tried everything. I went to therapists, doctors, everything. And the only thing that was left was, hey, you know what? Why not give it a try? What do I got to lose?
Okay.
So I opened the door and said, okay. And guess what? As soon as I opened the door to God, as soon as I started to pray, as soon as I started to open my heart to it, I was changed. And I don't have a drinking and drug problem anymore.
Well,
and that's the same thing that millions of people across the world who participate in these programs will say.
I congratulate you on your sobriety, but my question would still be, how do you know there's a God, and that's what made you sober?
Yeah, because from where I sit, it looks like you did all the hard work. You actually are responsible for your sobriety.
And you should give yourself more credit.
Yeah, you did it.
I do give myself credit. And you asked me if I called in before. Yeah, I called in before. I called in, and you guys said the same thing to me when I called in a few years ago. So you know what? Just to be completely scientific about it, see, God doesn't force himself on anybody. If you ask him to leave, he'll leave. And it's kind of like this. Imagine
I think your God doesn't exist, so I agree. He doesn't force himself on anybody.
Okay, so you know I believe in God, so just entertain my thoughts. You're trying to understand why, so I'm telling you.
Okay.
So imagine you have digital cable, right? Imagine you have digital cable, right?
Okay.
I have it, so it's not much of an imagination.
And you decide that, hey, I can't afford digital cable anymore, so I need to call the cable company and downgrade to analog cable, basic cable.
Not an option anymore, but yeah, okay.
Sure. It's just a metaphor.
Yeah, go ahead.
I understand.
So that's what I did a few years ago when you guys said that to me, right? And I'm like, okay, let's see if I did this by myself, if there's some supernatural being helping me. So I'm going to kick that out of my life. And sure enough, I did that. So that's why I gave that analogy. If I had digital cable and it was like downgrading to analog cable, you know, because I can't afford to pay the tax, to pay the extra money to have digital cable. I can't afford the emotional tax of having a supernatural being that I may not know really exists because, hey, people are convincing me that maybe it doesn't, not real. And guess what? This has nothing to do with me because I did keep trying my hardest. I did keep doing everything that I was doing before and doing all the things I was doing. My life started to fall apart.
What do you mean by you kicked him out? Did you stop believing?
Yeah.
I find it hard that anyone could just turn it on or off like that at will.
Yeah, I did. I said, okay, I'm not going to go to church anymore. I'm not going to read my Bible anymore. I'm not going to pray anymore. I'm going to reboot my mind and become a completely scientific mind where I believed we evolved from monkeys and apes. And hey, there's nothing to all this.
Mark, I'm going to stop you here because I think you're being dishonest. Okay, because
I'm not.
what you're
I'm
what you're
not.
describing is not possible. You cannot reboot your mind and pretend you don't believe something. Something convinced you that a God is real. Maybe it was the fact that you became sober after so many years of trying, and that was a real emotional moment for you, and that convinced you that a God was real. You can't just discard that on a whim.
Yeah, you and many talks with my brother convinced me that God was not real. So I
don't
entertained it.
believe that. I'm sorry, I think you're lying. You're either lying to
Okay.
us or you're lying to yourself, because you can't do that. You can't just turn it off and pretend that
Hey,
you don't believe.
You know what, Jen? I acknowledge that, hey, maybe I self-sacrificed and self-sabotaged myself because I didn't feel as strong without having a presence in my life. I don't know. That is a possibility.
That makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah?
Because you
You
can
think
stop
so?
going
I
to
know.
church and going through the motions, but that
Yeah.
doesn't really, I don't think it's really going to change your internal belief structure. I
Yeah,
think that,
and not only that, but I mean, if your church is a part of your social network and you cut yourself off from that, then you know from having been through a recovery program that cutting yourself off from people that are helping you is actually going to jeopardize your sobriety. You know that.
Yeah, I guess, okay, it could be that. I don't know. All I know is when I said the first prayer and asked God into my life, the reason, the presence I felt, the reason I felt it was real is because it felt like, and I'm sure you've heard this description before, it felt like love and joy and happiness and peace was a tangible thing, and I was wrapped up in a blanket, and there was a presence that was just there with me everywhere I went.
I have no doubt that people's religious beliefs often come with some kind of emotional response, especially when they engage in rituals like prayer. I have no doubt that produces an emotional response in people. You probably get a serious endorphin rush, and it feels good. I don't deny
Okay.
that happens to people.
Okay, I just got one last question for you, and then I'll let you go and move on to other callers.
Okay.
I would like for you, if you could, please, explain to me the C.S. Lewis phenomenon. He started out as a devout atheist who set out on a mission to disprove God, to enlighten all humanity, and all he ended up doing is proving the existence of God to himself. He came to see that all the evidence and research he did, he came to see that the only logical explanation is there must be a God.
I don't know. How do you explain the Matt Dillahunty phenomenon? He set out to prove that his God was real because he wanted to enter the ministry. The more he studied, the more he realized that he couldn't continue to believe that a God was real, and he had to reject his former beliefs.
Sorry. One more thing. I just thought I had a list of notes I wanted to ask you about. I'm sure you're aware of what's widely accepted by the whole scientific community, including Stephen Hawking, as the string theory, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I guess it's called the string theory. I'm not sure it's actually formally a theory, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and it's considered the most accurate theory that describes everything that's in existence and what's going on and all of that.
Again, I'm not sure that that's actually a good description of it.
I'm not a physicist, so I don't.
Yeah, I'm not a cosmologist
I can't
either.
speak
So
to string theory with any kind of authority at all.
yeah, and frankly,
well,
whatever it says, whatever point you want to make about string theory, I assure you, it has nothing to do with why I'm an atheist.
Actually, it does, because that's what I was trying to get to. I watched and studied and read a whole thing on string theory last night, and according to string theory, the seventh dimension of existence and reality, and all the scientists agree on this, that it is a hyperbrain.
Okay.
I'm not making that up.
I understand, but you know what? I got 3 callers on the line here, so I'm going to actually cut you off. If you want to continue this, you can email us.
Okay.
All right. So thanks for the
Bye.
call, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Right. He read a whole thing on it last night. Okay.
We should have gotten the title of that, but
Yeah. Well, maybe he'll email us and he'll give us the title of it. So